everyone, welcome back to my channel, Everlynn's Books and Tea. Thank you so much for joining me for another video, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. I am so excited for today's video. It's a series of videos that I've been doing over the past couple of months that I've really enjoyed, and that is my Around the World Challenge videos. So this will actually be episode 3 of my Around the World Challenge, and for those who haven't watched any of this before, basically, each month I record a video where I read a book that is set in a different country or written by an author from a different country. And it's really helped me to diversify the books that I'm reading and the authors that I'm reading as well. A lot of these books and authors I may not have come across without this challenge, which is why I love doing it. I hope everyone who's been watching these videos has enjoyed it as well. This actually may be episode 4, because I'm pretty sure we've already gone to 3 different countries. We did the 2 islands and then the country in Africa. So this should be actually the 4th video. So we'll see when I upload this, but this may actually be episode 4. Anyway, we've already done 2 islands on this video, but we're going to another island. Today's island is actually very, very different than the last 2 islands we went to, which were pretty small islands. This is the largest island in the world that is not a continent, so obviously that's excluding Australia. But this island is almost as far as you can get from Australia. It's actually up in the Arctic Circle, and 80% of it is covered in ice. It also has the most northerly capital in the world, which is Nuuk. And if you haven't guessed where we're going, we are going to Greenland. Greenland is this massive island, the largest in the world that isn't a continent, and it also has the world's largest national park. And then another fun fact, just to kind of throw in there, is that Greenland has its own dog breed. It's called the Greenlandic sled dog. And it's actually the only breed that is allowed north of the Arctic Circle on this island. And I love dogs, so I had to throw in that fact. So we're going to switch things up a little bit on this episode and see how it works. First, we're going to dive into the book that I chose to read for Greenland. And I'll share that book and kind of my thoughts of it. And then if you're thinking of joining the challenge, I'm going to quickly go over some other book options that you can use for Greenland if this book doesn't interest you. So this way, this video can kind of be just a handy reference for other people who are doing the Around the World Challenge. After exploring all the different books set in Greenland, and trust me, there is a surprising variety of books, I settled on a Nordic thriller called 7 Graves, 1 Winter by Christopher Peterson. One of the main reasons I chose this book is that it is set in a small rural Greenlandic town as well as in the capital of Nuuk. So it exposes you both to a rural setting and a more urban setting. And then the other reason is while the author isn't originally from Greenland, he's lived in both rural and urban areas in Greenland. And that kind of helps add authenticity to the story, I feel. And then, honestly, who doesn't love a good Nordic thriller? One of the series I'm reading right now is a series of Nordic thrillers. So, this book, the story kicks off in this small remote village called Inusuk, which I think is a made-up village, but I'm not 100% sure. So at the end of every summer in this village, 7 graves are dug before the ground freezes in preparation for winter. And the way this book kind of opens is kind of a little bit haunting, and the question is asked is whether will these 7 graves be enough to get this village through winter or will they not? So the main character in this book is Constable David Marazzi, who has just been medically retired from the police force in Greenland, and he moves to this remote Arctic village to live as a subsistence fisherman. But on his very first fishing trip with a neighbor, he ends up reeling in a body of a young woman who turns out to be the daughter of a Greenlandic politician. So what are the chances of that? The plot then ends up shifting back to Nuuk, which is the capital city, and the First Minister of Greenland is gearing up for a crucial debate against a political rival. With Greenland's independence movement from Denmark, they want to kind of become their own country. Currently, they are a autonomous part of Denmark, and this has become a central issue for the debates. So Marazzi is kind of left to unravel the mystery of this young woman's death against the backdrop of these national elections. So both things are kind of important in this story. So My thoughts on this book. So, first off, this book is steeped into Greenland's political world. One of the key elements in this mystery is just the tension between the ethnically Greenlandic people and the Danish residents who live in Greenland. And language becomes this very powerful symbol in the debate, with the First Minister's opponent fueling resentment against those people who only speak Danish or whose first language was Danish. So I found the exploration of Greenland's political landscape and how important it was to the plot of this book very interesting, because the independence movement has played a huge role in this country's history. But as far as the characters go, they were just lacking a little bit in depth, which I feel like you sometimes see in these thriller type books. So while Muratse, who's the main character, is the most developed of them all, much of his story just really revolves around him still just wanting to be a police officer. Obviously, because, his goal in life wasn't to be medically retired from the job that he lives for. And then it's focused on him solving this current case and recovering from his injuries that forced him to be retired from the police force. And that's really all I got to know about this character. And then the other characters, I felt like I got to know even less about them. And it just kind of leaves you with a shallow understanding of who these people really were in the book. But on the plus side, I did feel I learned a lot about life in Greenland, both in the rural and the urban settings, though I wish there was a little bit more detail about living in a rural Greenlandic town. But, this is a crime novel, so the focus was obviously more on the mystery aspect of the book. So speaking of the mystery, the reveal of the killer was a little bit of a surprise to me. The book kind of did lead you in that direction towards the end, to the point where as the reader, you learned who did it before the characters in the book did, but I found like the motivation for the crime was a little bit weak and a little bit confusing as well. And I would have just appreciated a little bit more explanation about what drove this particular character to commit such an act, as it seemed to kind of contradict the portrayal of the character that you learned about as you read the book. But overall, I think Seven Graves, One Winter is a solid choice for a book set in Greenland when our goal is to learn about the country and to read a book that has some authenticity in it because the author has lived there. It is a quick read, and despite some of the shortcomings that I did discuss, the mystery is still engaging, and it's an interesting mystery to solve, and there's a lot of pieces and parts to it, which is always good for a mystery thriller book. So if you're looking for a fast-paced crime thriller to tick off Greenland from your around the world country chart, this book definitely fits the bill for that. But if you're interested in something a little bit different, I'm going to give you some other options that you can use to check off Greenland from your around the world reading challenge. So first up, there's a couple of nonfiction books available that I thought sounded interesting. The first is This Cold Heaven by Gretel Ehrlich, which combines travel writing with history and cultural anthropology, and it documents the author's experience living in Greenland for 7 seasons. So you got some authenticity there as well. So another nonfiction option is An African in Greenland by Teta Michelle Komatsi. And this is written by the author who is originally from Togo in Africa. And as a teenager, he found a book that was, I don't know if it was about Greenland. And after reading it, he kind of became very fascinated by the island and eventually was able to make his way there, becoming the first African to explore Greenland. So this book is kind of a documentation of his journey. If you aren't into thrillers, because a lot of books set in Greenland happen to be thrillers, I did find one fiction book that was not a thriller that fits the bill and sort of fits the bill for this challenge, and that is Migrations by Charlotte McConaughey. And it's a climate dystopia novel that follows the main character, Franny Stone, who arrives in Greenland with the goal to follow the last Arctic terns on their final migration to Antarctica. So much of this book takes place on a boat. The people on the boat are from Greenland, so it's kind of a unique option if you're interested in reading a book that follows characters from Greenland. And then I have a bunch of thrillers that you could choose as well. First off is just the author of the book that I read, Christopher Peterson. He has written a ton of other mystery thrillers set in Greenland, and many of them are part of series that feature recurring characters in between each series. And Seven Graves, One Winter is one of the books that is set in one of his series. So you may want to look at the order before deciding which series to start with. I did not, but it worked out for me, I suppose. But I don't know if that injury that the main character had happened in a prior book or not. So if that is something that would if you're a person that really likes to read from beginning to end, definitely look into the order before picking up Seven Graves, One Winter. So the next book I am going to discuss kind of intrigues me, and this is a book I may pick up outside of this Around the World Reading Challenge and read on its own, and that is Girl in Ice by Erica Ferencik. So this book follows the main character Val Chesterfield, who is a linguist specializing in dead Nordic languages, and she is called to Greenland to communicate with this young girl who was frozen in ice, who has now been thawed from the ice alive. And she happens to speak an unknown language. And while Val is there, her twin brother died under suspicious circumstances prior to all this, so she also wants to investigate the mysterious death of her brother and find out what really happened. The plot of that book sounds very interesting to me, so I will probably pick this up at some point. Another thriller that you can choose is The Girl Without Skin by Mads Peder Norbo. And this book centers on journalist Matthew Cave, who is sent to cover the discovery of this mummified Viking corpse in Greenland, but only to find that the body has disappeared, and the policeman who is guarding it has been found murdered in the exact same way as a series of gruesome crimes that took place in Nuuk in the 1970s. So now he is investigating what happened and maybe if this killer has come back. So that's another option. Last up is probably the book that is most recognizable off of this list of books set in Greenland. There's already been a movie made out of it, and that is Smila's Sense of Snow by Peter Huug. This book is actually set in Denmark and Greenland, and it follows Smila, who is a Greenlander living in Denmark, as she investigates the suspicious death of her young neighbor who fell off the roof of the apartment building that they lived in. And that, in the journey of trying to figure out what happened to him, lands her back in Greenland. There you have it. There are some options for books set in Greenland to help you with your own Around the World challenge. I hope you enjoyed this video and that I have given you some ideas for your next read. I love thrillers set in Nordic countries. There's just something very unique about them, and I'm definitely intrigued by a few of the other books that I mentioned. Like I said before, Girl in Ice, and then Smila's Sense of Snow also sounds like it could be a good book to read. So in the next episode, which is either episode 4 or episode 5, we'll figure that out for the next video, we'll be traveling to a very, very tiny country in Europe, and I can't wait to see what book options I'll find there. I hope August is going well for everyone and that you're making some progress on your August TBRs. I am slowly working my way through mine, and actually planning to do a 48-hour readathon at the end of this week, so hoping to get through a good chunk of the books I have left. So fingers crossed, wish me luck. Thank you so much for watching and joining me for today's video. If you have any favorite books set in Greenland, let me know, or if you're planning to read any of the books that I mentioned. My next video will be the 48-hour readathon, which is going to feature ChatGPT and Spotify to help me choose which books I'm going to read. So that should be a interesting video, and hoping it goes well. So anyway, I hope everyone has a great rest of their day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!